So, as I told you, I'm going to speak about Shakespeare's adaptations for the screen. And I would like to start my speech by playing a game with you. How many films based on Shakespeare's work do you think that were made? You might say 50, 100 maybe? Well, the truth is that we have 1,152 screen versions of Shakespeare. This number includes DVDs that were recorded at the theatre and also some TV versions, live theatre broadcast on television. But if we remove these, we have approximately 1,000 films, which is a huge figure. The first one was Macbeth, dating from 1898. And the last one, at least the last one I have considered for my speech, is also, curiously, Macbeth, made in 2016 and starring Marion Cotillard as Lady Macbeth. So, as I told you, it is the last one that I have considered, but maybe some more were made, seeing this big production. And traditionally, films that are adaptations of Shakespeare were reviewed based on the concept of faithfulness, which is very common and also very easy because it's very easy to see if the film uses the same script as Shakespeare's play. And some actually do. Sometimes it is modernized, so it is not Middle English, the verb endings or pronouns change, but it is the same content as Shakespeare wrote. And some other change the text and change the dialogues and change the action even a lot. But this criticism based on the concept of faithfulness seems to be somewhat limited. I'm thinking of an Italian stage director that is called Carmelo Bene. He died a few years ago. He is one of the less faithful, apparently, and yet he has been considered as the one who better sees the spirit of Shakespeare, better than anyone else. So I suggest a different categorization should be introduced. And I have identified 5 categories. The first category are stage versions, that is, films made as if they were represented in a theatre. So the director pretends that the film is a stage version and they respect the unity of time, place, and action. Well, I know that Shakespeare was not famous in his time for respecting the Aristotelian units, but anyway, the stage imposes some unity of place, at least. And also, in this film's actors act as if they were on stage, with the same wide gestures, and they are shot and set in just one place. I'm thinking of actors such as Laurence Olivier, Macbeth by Orson Wells, some films by Branagh. And, for example, if you think of the film Much Ado About Nothing, and you remember it was set in a villa in Florence, the villa is the stage. Everything happens there. Apart from a small subplot, there's unity of space, time, and action. And also, films by Zeffirelli, such as Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, are very stage-like. As opposed to these, we have versions that completely ignore the stage. So they are shot in different settings, various places, many scenes are outdoors. They use a lot of editing techniques to combine the sequences, and I think it is very suitable for Shakespeare because there's so much action, so much exotic places, and as it was said by some critics, Shakespeare would have loved the cinema because it allows a lot of different actions. And in this category, I have identified Macbeth by Polanski and also some other movies by Branagh. Then we have a third category that I have called the updates. That is, Shakespeare's plays, but set in a different age, a different time of history. And one of my favorite in this category is Romeo plus Juliet, which was released when I was in my first year at university. So I was reading Shakespeare all the time, and I really loved this film. And of course, we all fell in love with Romeo, and also the music is great, great costumes, and it is all full of a dreamlike quality. I don't know if you have seen it. There's that famous scene when Romeo and Juliet look at each other through the water of an aquarium, and it's all very, well, that really represents the dreamlike quality of it. There's another one that is less famous, that was The Tempest, a version dating from the early 80s, I think, starring Susan Sarandon as Ariel. If you have read The Tempest, you might know that Ariel is a spirit that has no gender, so we don't know if Ariel is a boy or a girl. But in this case, Ariel is a lady, and the main character, Prosperous, is a New York architect who moves to a Greek island following his divorce with his teenage daughter, and Ariel is his new girlfriend. And then we also have a Twelfth Night, starring Helena Bonham Carter and set during World War I. Maybe less successful. As a fourth category, we have plots that are not based on Shakespeare's plays, but were somewhat inspired by Shakespeare. A very famous one is West Side Story, which was a film but was also a Broadway musical before, and is now on stage in Madrid, I think. In this one, Romeo and Juliet belong to two rival street gangs in the Hispanic community in New York. So it was inspired by Shakespeare, but it is not the same play. And another one is Rosercraz and Guildestern Are Dead, which explores two side characters of Hamlet in an absurdist tragic comedy by Tom Stoppard. More recently, we have also seen Shakespeare in Love, where Shakespeare is not the author, but is a character of the film. And we also have films about drama societies that represent Shakespeare on stage, and so the plot of the film is what happens to them while they are arranging the performance. The fifth and last category I have called Shakespearean hints in other films. So it's films that apparently have nothing to do with Shakespeare, but for a certain quality. For instance, The Godfather has nothing to do with Shakespeare, clearly, but it has been said to have some Shakespearean quality in the majesty of some scenes. So, with all these films that I have mentioned and these different categories, I hope that I have made you want to see some, at least, if you have not yet. And I don't know if you agree with me, but you might wonder now what my favorite is. And I tell you that I think my favorite Shakespearean director is Branagh, because everybody can remake the classics as modern. But remake the classics as classics, well, that is something only Branagh can do. Thank you.